David Copperfield by Charles Dickens, Chapter 58, Absence. I went away from England, not knowing even then how great the shock was that I had to bear. I left all who were dear to me and went away, and believed that I had borne it. And it was past, as a man upon a field of battle will receive a mortal hurt and scarcely know that he is struck. So I, when I left alone with my undisciplined heart, had no conception of the wound with which it had strove. The knowledge came upon me not quickly, but little by little and grain by grain. The desolate feeling with which I went abroad deepened and widened hourly. At first it was a heavy sense of loss and sorrow, wherein I could distinguish little else. But by imperceptible degrees it became a hopeless consciousness of all that I had lost, love, friendship, interest, and all that had been shattered, my first trust, my first affection, the whole airy castle of my life, and all that remained, a ruined blank and waste, lying around me, unbroken, to the dark horizon. When this despondency was at its worst, I believed that I should die. Sometimes I thought that I would like to die at home, and actually turned back on my road, that I might get there soon. At other times, I proceeded restlessly from place to place. Stopping nowhere, sometimes I lingered long in one spot. I had no purpose. I had had no purpose, no sustaining soul within me anywhere. I was in Switzerland. I had come out of Italy, over one of the great passes of the Alps, and had since wandered with a guide among the byways of the mountains. If those awful solitudes had spoken to my heart, I did not know it. I had found sublimity and wonder in the dread heights and precipices, in the roaring torrents and the wastes of ice and snow, but as yet they had taught me nothing else. I came one evening before sunset down into a valley where I was to rest. In the course of my descent to it, by the winding track along the mountainside, from which I saw it shining far below, I think some long, unwanted sense of beauty and tranquility, some softening influence awakened by its peace, moved faintly in my breast. I remember pausing once, with a kind of sorrow that was not all oppressive, not quite despairing. I remember almost hoping that some better change was possible within me. I had found a packet of letters awaiting me but a few minutes before, and had strolled out of the village to read them, while my supper was making ready. Other packets had missed me, but I had received none for a long time, beyond a line or two to say that I was well, and had arrived at such a point. I had not the fortitude or constancy to write a letter since I left home. The packet was in my hand. I opened it and read the writing of Agnes. She was happy and useful, was prospering as she had hoped. That was all she told me of herself. The rest referred to me. She gave me no advice. She urged no duty on me. She only told me, in her own fervent manner, that what her trust in me was. She knew, she said, how such a nature as mine would turn affliction to good. She knew how trial and emotion would exalt and strengthen it. She who so glorified in my fame, and so looked forward to its augmentation, well knew that I would labor on, and in her sisterly affection cherished me always, and was always at my side. Go where I would, proud of what I had done, but infinitely prouder yet of what I reserved to do. I read her letter many times. I wrote to her before I slept. I told her that I had been in sore need of her help, that without her I was not, and I never had been, what she thought me, but that she inspired me to be that, and I would try. I did try. I worked early and late, patiently and hard. I wrote a story and sent it to Traddles, and he arranged for its publication very advantageously for me, and tidings of my growing reputation began to reach me from travelers whom I encountered by chance. After some rest and change, I fell to work, in my old ardent way, on a new fancy which took strong possession of me. As I advanced in the execution of this task, I felt it more and more, and roused my utmost energies to do it well. This was my third work of fiction. It was not half written when, in an interval of rest, I thought of returning home. For a long time, though, studying and working patiently, I had accustomed myself to robust exercise. My health, severely impaired when I left England, was quite restored. I had seen much, I had been in many countries, and, I hope, I had improved my store of knowledge. I have now recalled all that I think is needful to recall here of this term of absence. With one reservation, I have desired to keep the most secret current of my mind apart, and to the last I enter on it now. I cannot so completely penetrate the mystery of my own heart as to know when I began to think that I might have set its earliest and brightest hopes on Agnes. I cannot say at what stage of my grief it first became associated with the reflection that in my wayward boyhood I have thrown away the treasure of her love, but the thought came into my mind as a new reproach and new target. When I was left so sad and lonely in the world. If at that time I had been much with her, I should, in the weakness of my desolation, have betrayed this. It was what I remotely dreaded when I was first impelled to stay away from England. I could not have borne to lose the smallest portion of her sisterly affection. Yet, in that betrayal, I should have set a constraint between us hitherto unknown. I could not forget that the feeling with which she now regarded me had grown up in my own free choice and course, that if she had ever loved me with another love, and I sometimes thought the time was when she might have done so, I had cast it away. I did glance, though, some indefinite probation to a period when I might possibly hope to cancel the mistaken past, and to be so blessed as to marry her. But as time wore on, this shadow prospect faded and departed from me. If she had ever loved me, then I should hold her the more sacred, remembering the sacrifice she must have made to be my friend and sister, and the victory she had won. If she had never loved me, could I believe that she would love me now? These, with their perplexities and inconsistencies, were the shifting quicksands of my mind from the time of my departure to the time of my return home 3 years afterwards. 3 long years, long in the aggregate, though short as they went by, and home was very dear to me, and Agnes too. But she was not mine. She was never to be mine. She might have been. But the war passed. But that war passed. And that is the end of chapter 58.